It gives me great pleasure now, coming back home, we welcome back Congressman Steve Scalise from Louisiana, House Republican Whip, soon to be Majority Leader, Mr. Scalise. You know, we gave Netanyahu pretty good advice way back when. This goes back about 20 years plus, and he actually put it into place. So now, sir, I'm waiting for the new GOP House to put it back into place in the United States.
Well, Larry, great to be with you. And please tell my dear friend Benjamin Netanyahu hello and congratulations again on returning as prime minister. And the message is clear. Let freedom ring. It's all about freedom, freedom from government, freedom to succeed. That was the battle back then when Jack Kemp so eloquently described it to Bibi. But it also was the message today because you've seen the attack from government coming after all of those freedoms and people pushing back and saying enough of all of this big government socialism. That's why we will have a Republican majority in the House come next month. And there's so much work to do, but obviously just getting back those abilities for people to control their own destiny and holding government accountable at the same time. That accountability aspect's been left out. And again, the ability for us to let freedom ring is something we need to reestablish.
Yeah, you know, a lot of us, there's no time like the present to start. So we were hoping, Steve Scalise, you know, no lame duck spending spree. Now, I don't know what you're hearing, but I heard today Republican Senate Leader Mitch McConnell seems to be pushing back from this dreaded omnibus bill put up in, you know, some dark room with 4 people making gigantic decisions, and instead talking about a much, much more limited continuing resolution. What can you tell us about that? It seems to me I'd kind of welcome that, I think.
Yeah, you know, we've got to get away from these big spending bills. It's why we have the inflation and the high cost of everything today, because government went on a drunken spending spree for the last 2 years. You know, every bill was $1 trillion this and $1 trillion that. And ultimately, somebody's got to pay for it. People know this idea that you can have a free lunch, that student loans can be free and your house note can be free. There's no such thing. And yet they sold that bill of goods falsely for the last 2 years. And it's wrecked the economy. It's made energy costs so expensive that people are making tough choices on whether they can even keep their houses warm in a cold winter right now. So this is where we are. We've got to get this country back on track.
Do you think we can go with a CR and not have this big omnibus bill and maybe wait for the House Republicans to lead us back to regular order on the appropriations bills and, you know, costs and benefits and witnesses and taxpayer accountability? Is such a thing possible?
Well, it's possible. We're not here right now, and Nancy Pelosi surely hasn't pushed that approach. We've talked about doing it differently, and we've laid out a calendar for next year to be able to bring all 12 of the appropriations bills individually, debate each item separately, vote up or down based on the merits of what's in it, have real fiscal restraint, make agencies justify what they're doing with your hard-earned taxpayer dollars. That hasn't happened in a long time. And yet, you know, that is something that we're going to be doing. We're making plans right now for getting that done in the new Congress. But in the meantime, there's still a few remaining items in this lame duck. We sure don't want additional damage done to our economy. So we're having those fights right now.
What's the outlook for the permitting bill? Remember the permitting bill? I mean, I'm sure you do. The progressives in the House don't want it. Schumer and Pelosi apparently do want it. This was Joe Manchin's payoff, if you will. Is the permitting bill alive? Is the permitting bill even a good thing? Or maybe a better permitting bill next year would be much better?
Yeah, it was very narrowly drawn, you know, just for maybe West Virginia. It's not the broader permitting reform we need to get our energy economy going again. And so we've laid out a really strong pro-American energy agenda for the new Congress. And let's get bills passed through the House that show the country how we don't have to beg foreign nations anymore for energy. We shouldn't be going to Saudi or Venezuela or Russia or anybody for energy. We should be making it in America. You and I have talked about this so much. And by the way, it lowers carbon emissions globally to produce more energy in America. Everybody should be wanting to make more of it here. Our allies do. We should be exporting more natural gas to our friends around the world so they don't have to get it from bad actors who put strings on that energy. All that would not only create good jobs in America, it would lower carbon emissions globally, and it would bring down the cost of energy on families. That is crushing the middle class. Lower income families are getting crushed by high energy costs. And look, all this Green New Deal stuff you talk about, look at the countries that have done it. You know, in the European Union, they did what California did. They banned fossil fuel cars, and the grid's not ready to handle it. So Switzerland is right now, as we speak, contemplating banning the electric cars. So you can't drive a fossil fuel car. You can't drive an electric car. I guess they're going to go back to the horse and buggy in Switzerland. But other countries are wrecking their economies, too. It doesn't make any sense, Larry. Let's go back to what we know works. Good natural gas, fossil fuels, made in America with the most efficient way to make it anywhere in the world.
How about this? Speaking of Green New Deal, socialism, the Energy Department, Ms. Granholm, is pushing this $200 million grant to a lithium battery company. It's called Microvast. Now, here's the catch. She's bragging that they're giving $200 million to this battery company. The only problem is, Steve Scalise, this stuff is run by China. It's part of it is here, but it's basically run by China. Not only is it run by China, the Chinese government exerts complete influence. It's an instrumentality of the Chinese government, but also it's on the SEC watch list because it's a NASDAQ company that is not complying with American accounting standards. And Ms. Granholm she's boosting this. She thinks this is a great idea. $200 million to China for sort of a crooked company. What do you make of that?
Yeah, and Larry, this is what we warned of when we were passing the bill that created, I called it a Solyndra-style slush fund back last year, and the White House mocked that statement. And here we go again. You're seeing $200 million of your hard-earned tax dollars going to go to a company that, by their own definition, said the Chinese government has influence, exerts influence how they do business. Is that who we want to be giving $200 million of American taxpayer money to? And yet that's what the secretary just did. I can't wait to see her explain that in a public hearing when we bring her in to talk about that and the other hundreds of millions and billions of dollars of your hard-earned tax dollars that are going to companies like this, companies that have to answer to China, and yet your tax dollars in America are going to those companies. Makes absolutely no sense. Again, we have inflation. They racked up trillions in spending and debt just to give money away, hundreds of millions at a time, to Chinese companies. This is lunacy, Larry.
Yeah, it sure is. We ought to do it homegrown. I don't know that it's a crooked company. It just won't comply with American accounting standards.
When the Chinese government exerts influence over them, it tells you all you need to know. Why not make it in America? Why not stop using taxpayer money? Let the free market choose where this goes and ultimately bring those jobs back home.
I'm still pushing for H.R. 1, Steve Scalise. Open energy. The spigots. Yes, sir. Open the spigots. Energy. I think it's the easiest one. Anyway, thank you
I want you to come testify for that bill.
You know what? I might make an exception in order to do that because I believe in it so much. And you're terrific, and thank you very much. Soon I'll call you Mr. Majority Leader. It's Steve Scalise, everybody.